opening, in a way, for us to argue that, you don't have a liner underneath. It never was properly designed as a landfill. It's called a mixed waste landfill, but a landfill has very specific requirements for.
Yes, my family owned a landfill for 25 years. One of the reasons that got me involved in Ward Valley was realizing that none of the laws and rules that applied to your coffee grounds and diapers applied to low-level waste.
Well, the whole business with low-level waste is kind of a misnomer in the first place. I mean, there was lots of plutonium in that beady dump.
Are you going to say your line, Sue?
Okay. So Sue, and then we'll give it over to Travis.
Just to say that we learned from this experience that food trucks are more regulated than the mixed waste landfill in this city.
So I just had addition to what Diane said, and Joni Aaron's asking to announce this anyway. In addition to all those individual actions people can take on HR 3053, there are 2 group sign-on letters that are for organizations. One has been initiated by Sierra Club and NRDC. Thankfully, they took that on, and it's last I knew it was 120 groups on there. It was sent on October 11th, but they're going to send it one more time as the bill is moving to the House floor. So if your groups are not on there yet, please talk to me. We can email you the letter so you can see what it says. But we need to really boost that number big time. And the second group sign-on letter, I'm from Michigan, and I'm on the board of Fairways, Michigan, and we have a Great Lakes specific letter because there's a lot of impacts on the Great Lakes from this proposal. Diane mentioned barge shipments, so there's barge shipments on Lake Michigan proposed. There's a lot of road and rail routes that are within the basin. If there was an accident and it's spilled, it could go into the lakes that way. So it's focused on the Great Lakes, but we're welcoming groups all over the country, all over the continent, U.S., Canadian, First Nations, Native American groups, because the Great Lakes are a world treasure, irreplaceable, sacred drinking water for 40 million people this generation, and then all future generations just keep adding on. So we would welcome groups to sign on to both of these letters. To Roswell, next Saturday in Roswell, there's going to be a meeting about the centralized pickup storage facilities proposed in southeastern Mexico and West Texas. And there's a flyer out on the table with some information.
September 9th, 9 to 5 at Comfort Suites in Roswell.
I want to add to this real quick. Is anyone from Nuclear Issues Study Group able to carpool, folks? Okay, so we got a big 10-passenger van, or 12? Okay, so so talk to us if you guys want to go. And just to respond to what Kevin said, we had a meeting. There's meetings going on nationally about these things. And at one of these meetings, there's a email, Don't Waste Texas, right? And then we took on the Gmail, Don't Waste New Mexico. So anybody can take on this email for their state. Don't waste Navajo Nation, don't waste Arizona, So these will be used to send out information to our groups. Cody and I are administrators on that email. We need to use it more, but I invite you all to also use the email for your particular community.
Hi, I'm Denise, and my husband Paul and I just stumbled into this panel. We were literally just taking a walk and saw the sign outside, and and it's kind of curious because I know my husband did your master's thesis, something to do with nuclear energy, but anyway, I'm really shocked to hear about what's going on in my backyard. We're new to New Mexico. We just moved here from New England last May, and I became familiar with the oil spill to which you mentioned, Mr. McCoy, and because we live literally just a few blocks away. And it's very disconcerting because it seems as though that the Air Force is not in any way having any kind of transparency regarding it. And I'm very concerned about my drinking water. But from what I'm hearing here, now I'm like in a bit of an alarmed state. And I'm more concerned about why I'm not hearing about this in mainstream media or even local media, and I'm wondering what kind of social networking or how you guys are getting the message out to the general population. I know that in the mid-'80s there was a lot of clamor about nuclear energy and nuclear waste. You don't hear that now. Of course, we have a big distraction back in Washington with the clown car. That's Trump. So how are you guys planning on getting the message out?
Well, there is alternative. There is alternative media that, you know, but the difficult thing with respect to what you might label mainstream media here is with respect to Kirtland, you've got the Kirtland Partnership Association. And this consists of a lot of the people that control the media and businesses, the Chamber of Commerce and that kind of thing. And they don't want us talking about these problems or having people like yourselves get acquainted with these kind of problems, you know. Somehow all of this is going to be collected by aliens in Roswell and shipped off next weekend, you know.
So, you know, the ABC is owned by Disney. CBS is, you know, like the eye in the sky. Even their emblem is this, you know, Big Brother symbol. It's not going to be heard in mainstream media. We sent, our team, our outreach committee sent press releases and called all of the local TV stations. So mainstream media blackout. So I don't, you know, why Dave explained exactly why. This who's controlling the media, and it has a lot to do with money and who's controlling them. We, you know, appreciate any help with any. We have available media here. We have the radio station 90.1 from Taos. They came, so we have alternative media, and I think the best way, the way I learned about these things is word of mouth. You know, getting involved. So. If you guys have any ideas, if anyone wants to head the committee, please do. Thanks, Mariah.
Sorry, so I get the same emails like 4 times, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some of us who are not on Facebook, right? And so, you know, often I think folks rely too much on Facebook, like I'm not on Facebook. So just thinking about ways to collaborate in terms of media, that might be a great place to start.
Okay, to go back to a moment to the bill in Congress right now, the HR 3053. Kevin mentioned there's national organization letters, Diane's organization has done that too, but individuals can also contact legislators. And in New Mexico, Ben Ray Lujan has been pretty good so far, but the other two need a lot of work, and it's good to write to all three of them. You know, Steve got Ben Ray Lujan, and then get the others in line to vote no, and then when it moves to the Senate, then that ends. And I'm hoping that maybe for Leona and Janet can help get some of those senses.
Oh, one other thing is that coming up in March nationally, there is an anti-nuclear gathering, and everyone here has been invited. And I think it would be really important to have more speakers and representation from New Mexico. And what state is more impacted? Bad in Texas, really bad here. And so anybody who wants to go and be part of that, please speak up and we'll make sure that we can help get you information, get you there, and some people to speak. In Chicago, midnight.
Actually, can actually, I need to, yeah, I need to interrupt here. Sue, can you write the individual letters, the whatever Karen was just saying, we need to send out the template for the personal letters. Okay, I'm sorry. So the other thing I wanted to add, along with this, we're talking about waste transport. And for Navajo Nation, I mentioned the Hall No stuff, the uranium waste. When I talked to them about Hall No's issue with the Canyon Mine uranium ore going to the White Mesa Mill, they basically said, it's out of our jurisdiction, it's out of our hands. So I said, well, what about the CIS proposals? What about waste coming from all over the country? If it's going to New Mexico, it's going to go along I-40 or the railroads going down to southeast New Mexico. If it's going to Yucca, it's going to go through the res that way. So we're screwed either direction. Anyways, we as Hall know, we have a lot of support from the city of Flagstaff. The city of Flagstaff wants to stop the transport, and the city council asked their lawyer to look into this. And the lawyer came back at the next meeting and said, we can't do it, we're superseded. And I'm learning a lot about these things. I should have known these things sooner, that so the smaller governments can't control what goes on the federal highways. And so what Roswell did, Roswell actually made city ordinances to to limit what type of radioactive waste goes through. Maybe they couldn't stop it, but what they did was they made curfews, they changed all kinds of things, and the DOE, they didn't want to deal with the city of Roswell, they didn't want to sue them, so they just went along, they just took all those recommendations and they abided by them. So we as people can do this in the city of Albuquerque, we can do this in the city of Flagstaff, not just a resolution, but an ordinance and I know my comrade Clee would say, but we don't, so the city of Flagstaff said, well, if we can't stop them, maybe we can put something stronger than a tarp over the uranium. Maybe we can make them hold them in more contained casings. So that discussion started, and someone like Clee would say, no, we want them to stop it. But these are other fights that we can also do. We can demand that they have the 20-inch or thicker casks. These kinds of things are what we need to do as a study group to figure out what we need to do. And then I just want to echo Clee's challenge to us as a study group that maybe we have a nuclear issues action group. So yeah, so we got some stuff on the wall, and I just wanted to add those two things, so thank you.
Okay. It's on now. Okay, so in addition to first in-person opportunity next Saturday in Roswell and the National Summit on Waste in Chicago, May 17th, we are less than 3 years away from the 75th anniversary of everything starting, whether it's the Trinity test site, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. I'm meeting with some people this week while I'm in New Mexico to talk about what should that look like. How do we commemorate that 75th anniversary? While we'd like to think we've ended nuclear colonialism by the year 2020, more likely we can make it a presidential conversation in the next presidential election. And we need to be thinking about that.
All right, thank you. So good afternoon, I'm Joni Ahrens. I'm with Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety. I was going to say we've been broadcasting a CCNS news update for 30 years. And so if you all have action alerts, if you have sample comment letters, please email them to ccns@nuclearactive.org. And I'm happy to put those up on in our broadcasts and our social media. That's number one. Number two, if you haven't filled out one of these postcards to Senator Grassley about amendments to RECA, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, please fill it out. They're right here. Number three, Kevin's letter. These national letters. I think, like right now, it's, SHRIC, CCNS, CARD, SHRIC sometimes signs on these national letters. I'm wondering if folks would be supportive of me sending around a piece of paper that says New Mexico groups that would want to be part of the email lists for the national groups to email us. Because I think that these national letters
would have more effect because they inevitably they get to the congressional delegation, and more groups signing on would be more powerful in the long term, especially on all of these issues that are coming up.
Thanks, Joni. And I think with our MailChimp news thing, our email lists, we need to start to send those out too, because we do get them. We are on the list. We just haven't gotten that savvy. Real quick, Joni, when does your update broadcast on KUNM?
Saturday night at 6:30 or 7, and we're hoping that Robin's station will pick it up. It's being broadcast in Boulder at this point. When we first started, we had 22 radio stations around the state, and slowly DOE eroded the sponsorship by these small radio stations in small towns, and we're in the process of trying to rebuild that.
Thank you, Joni. So we're going to have one more last comment from the gentleman across the room, just so we can end on time.
Hi, I'm Smitty, and I wanted to pick up on why the resolutions on transportation are so important and how it rolls into the battle over H.R. 3053. There is a lot of questions about whether or not the resolutions could be effective blocking anything actually coming to a community. As Leona and Clee and others have said, maybe there are conditions we can put on like Roswell did that make it really difficult. But it isn't so much what ends up happening, it's the fact that we're having a debate about the danger of 10,000 shipments of this waste coming through our communities, headed down to the area in between Cobb's and being put in that location down there. That was good. Is it working now? And so if we get these resolutions scheduled for debate in Albuquerque and city after city after city throughout New Mexico, then suddenly we're putting pressure on your congressional delegation where all this is coming to stand up and have some guts to protect the people from those 10,000 shipments of waste, each of which contains as much plutonium as the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki. This isn't child's play. This is massive death if one of these things happen, and a 42 square mile contamination, even with a minor leak. One of the people who is most difficult and a proponent of this is now running for governor. This sets up that campaign, and that makes him a person responsible for bringing in this kind of death and destruction to New Mexico. It's an opportunity we all have to be able to mobilize the people who have not yet engaged in a campaign in their communities that can be won, that can really make the issue of nuclear contamination and why we brought it on ourselves into the forefront, and an opportunity for people in city after city to say, no nukes, no more waste. We're done with this stuff in New Mexico. That's what we can do with this resolution and this piece of legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Schmitty. That was a great ending to the comments. So now we're just going to take last comments from all of the presenters, and then after that, we're going to give them a big round of applause. All right.
Yeah, two things. Yeah, just to buttress the statement that was just made about passing resolutions at the county levels, at the city levels, and at the tribal levels. So that, you may not prevent it, but you're getting this citizen outrage at this actions happening. So definitely encouraging our governmental entities to pass these resolutions. And the second thing, of course, is the politics behind this. You know, Senator Udall, he's a great friend, personal acquaintance and environmentalist, but yet, he'll support something like the Defense Authorization Act. So where you've got this billions of dollars going into the national laboratories, he's a fan of that. So they also need to be put on the carpet for their own stances on these issues.
With respect to the transportation of waste, I think it's important to look at the larger picture, which is they don't have any place to put the waste. The nuclear reactors around the country are backing up. This whole thing is about continuation of nuclear power in a much larger sense. You know, the military's over here, but nuclear power generation, this is a multi-trillion-dollar industry worldwide. And so your goal really is to shut that down. That's what I've been trying to work for ever since I was in my 20s, was the idea that if we could just get nuclear power off the table, and the folks that are trying to do solar and wind power would get their act together soon enough, you know, we could get away from nuclear power and all the waste and all the problems.
Thanks, Dave. Maybe we need to write that down to work closer together with folks supporting renewables. We need the yes fight. I'm sick of this no fight. We need a yes fight as well. So I want to end with a couple of examples of actions that are more probably what the Nuclear Issues Study Group kind of wanted to take on. All of these things in the room are going on, and this is exactly what I was hoping would come out of this session. And I'm really happy we have all these great people in the room. But some of the things I learned on my travels in Germany, they just do some amazing actions. They did one that was making a human chain that was like 90 miles long from Aachen to Tihange, or I'm sorry, my pronunciation's horrible, but it was from, one facility to another facility, and it was just, people uniting and supporting, and maybe, these things are things that we can attempt to do here in New Mexico. We have so many sites that we can put together, maybe during our walkabout. The other thing is, one of the actions they did was they did a lockdown. There was a radioactive waste transport, or anyways, radioactive materials transport along the railroads, and these folks, they locked down under the railroad. They did the lock boxes, so you guys all saw the presentation. Clee had a lock box here. They locked down under a railroad, and the cops could not stop them. The police had no idea how to take them away, to move them, to arrest them, so they ended up cutting the railroad. We got a lot of railways here, but anyways, they're just ideas. And some of the more simple things that we could do is, like Patuch said, we can come up with collaborative statements. So I'm going to read this statement that some of us came up with in April last year, and this is our no consent statement. So, we do not consent to the consolidated storage of high-level radioactive waste, which is often targeting economically vulnerable communities whose voices go unheard. We oppose the transport of high-level radioactive waste on highways, railways, and waterways. So maybe our group here can sign on to this statement as well as the letters, and to support all of the work that's going on in the country. Thank you.
All right, let's give these guys a round of applause, everybody. So thank you for attending our last panel. If you guys have any more suggestions or how we can collaborate together and stand together in solidarity, Sue's over there with marker, and we also want the sign-up sheet with your name, email, and action, issue or action.
And that's for the contact person, right? The contact person for the, okay.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
So we have student presentations next. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll have the students come back in for their final projects. Thank you.
Awesome.